so vanilla and cliche. But you know what? If you're gonna have an opinion, make it a strong one. Easily the worst book I've read. Bro, I thought it couldn't get any worse, and then they turned out to be Disney adults. Hello, my lovely book babes and baddies. Welcome back to Romance and Rosé, where we exclusively read romance and hardly ever drink rosé. I want to start off today's video by saying, if you are an author, specifically if you are an author who knows me, maybe skip this one. Because odds are, if I love you and I have loved your books, this is not going to be the one for your entertainment. I don't know why I thought this would be fun. I don't know why I thought this would be funny, but today I'm going to be reading 1-star reviews of some of my favorite romance books ever. For what purpose, you might ask? Who the hell knows? I think I'm just gonna walk away with hurt feelings. But I think we can all agree here that reading is subjective. Just because I love something doesn't mean I expect everyone in the world to have the same fabulous taste as me and to get the same enjoyment out of it. But I do think there's something comedic to be had in reading bad reviews. So let's dive in. I gotta make sure my skin is thick enough for today's video. Okay. Starting out with actually what I would consider to be my favorite book of all time, 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This book is my baby, and it is one that I will never accept criticism from, even though you're entitled to your criticism. I don't have to receive it though, right? I am gonna read it though, so make that make sense. Free will and all that. Ready to cry? Didn't cry. Maybe I'm just a heartless bitch who hates people in love. And you know what? Maybe. I'm not gonna say that you are, but all I will say is that I'm not an easily emotionally moved person, and this book had me dropping to my knees in the middle of my kitchen like a baby back bitch, sobbing my eyes out. This book had me hysterical. I do think if you read this and you don't cry, there has to be other sort of outside elements that are keeping you from being in the mood. Because if you're really into this story, if you're tracking it, if you're following along, invested in the characters, I don't think there's a way to walk out of it without crying. The only thing I cried about was the fact that this was so vanilla and cliche. Here's the thing, what do you mean by vanilla? Because it is YA. I would hope it would be vanilla, you know? But if you're meaning vanilla as in like bland, again, I'll have to refute you on that. I felt like this took many different twists and turns, and I still had a hard time accepting the outcome by the end of it, even though so much was building to it. I despised this. I hated it. There's a burning hole in hell specifically for this book. I also cried. Do with that what you will. And you know what? I can get behind this. If you don't like books that make you feel really heavy and emotional, I can imagine maybe why you wouldn't like it. So I love how this sort of ended with, do with that what you will. These are the kind of reviews that I would read and would actually convince me to pick it up, right? I had to vomit in my mouth 6,937,283 times. I wanted to throw this book in a fire pit after every page. Alyssa. I love a drama queen. At that point, I see reviews like this and go, people need to learn to DNF more. People need to be more okay not finishing books. It's okay. It's not a crime. If you're reading a book you don't like, you're really just wasting your own time. DNF at 15%. You gave it 1 star and you only got 15% in? Samala. Bro, Rune was just really creepy. Stop. We are not the same. We are not the same. If you think Rune is creepy, that boy is basically a Norwegian angel sent from heaven above. Are you insane? And the scene at the beginning when he sneaks into her room, so gross. Why do we have to encourage teenage sex? I don't care if they're gonna be together forever. If they were, then they would have had no problem waiting until marriage, or at least until they weren't minors, for goodness sakes. I got this for my birthday too, so sad. Samala, I fear you would retract everything in this review if you had made it past 15%. Okay. I fear you did not have enough context. And you know what, for those of you who haven't read it, I don't want to spoil it for you. All I'm saying, this opinion completely shifted if she had actually read this book. And this is exactly why I don't leave reviews on books I didn't read, because I feel like you can't put out a well-informed opinion if you don't have the whole story, right? But again, you know, free will. That's just me. It's been ages since the last time I hated a book so much I couldn't finish it. Bye bye book, you were everything I hate. Starting with the possessiveness and finishing with the overdramatic sad scenes. Javi. Yeah, that one did hurt. That hurt to read a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Overdramatic sad scenes. You have no empathy, I fear. This book was not overly dramatic. Every moment I felt was an underreaction, but I'm also a bit of a drama queen. I'm not overly emotional, but I am dramatic, you know? I'd rather eat a jean jacket than give this book more than 1 star. Easily the worst book I've read. Stop. Never take a book recommendation from me. Ever. Because this is one of the best books I've read. Okay. It is. You know what? I also see reviews like this and I want to know what the best book they've read is. Because I feel like that does tell a lot about certain people. Like what are they comparing it to? I don't know if I can take more criticism on my favorite read of all time. Let's move on. Okay, next. The Wolf King by Lauren Powell Freeman. I'm obsessed with this series. It is so good. It is wolf shifter, fantasy, love triangle, drama. I want to punch the FMC and MMC and myself for even picking this up in the first place. Okay, that's a lot. But you know what? If you're gonna have an opinion, make it a strong one. Nope, sorry. Tried to reread the red reviews for book 2, and I'm not about love triangles and shit that goes on for 2 whole books. Be fucking for real. And you know what? Good thing you bailed, because it's actually 3 books. The 3rd book comes out in September. If you're not about love triangles and you don't like a trilogy, you know what? It's for the best. Sounds like it just wasn't your cup of tea. 1.5, I think I mentally tapped out at lactose intolerant wolves. Were there lactose intolerant wolves? I do not recall that detail. I do plan on doing a reread of book 1 and 2 before the 3rd comes out, just so it's like really fresh. And I can tell you that detail is nowhere in my memory, but that is hilarious. Because it is a sort of like medieval setting. Nope. If you want bad Outlander, but make it wolves instead of time travel and an obvious ACOTAR love triangle, then sure. Or if you appreciate reading writing like tastes like old cemeteries, or even the mountains seem to move as the gust blows, or taste the smoky amusement. If you like reading 8 billion times about how all the males smell like shadows and mountains and steel and darkness and heat and battle and other wild made up things. Or if you want to read 7 trillion times about how her mother always told her everything is a choice while complaining she never has a choice. Anyway, I don't appreciate writing like that. I don't appreciate boring, bland MMCs that have been done 800 times already. You have Captain Shivery who wants to but would never, and the Mr. Broody with the past who pretends to be bad but always shows up to help. Plus an FMC who makes Feyre look like a Rhodes Scholar. Apparently people like this book. Couldn't be me. And you know what? Fair. Tastes like old cemeteries. That's really funny. But I feel like these days people put like isms that don't make sense into their everyday vocabulary, and I can totally understand if that bothers some people. This one's good. I don't judge people based on their reading taste, but yes I do. And you know what? So do I. I do, really. I would never publicly shame anyone for it, but sometimes when I see people give 5 stars to a book that I did give 1 star, that I just felt like was so bad, I do kind of side-eye and go like, what did you like about it? Like, so I do get that. Big DNF, a wolf man wearing a kilt. Why am I picturing a Scottish man who turns into a wolf with his thick and heavy Scottish accent? I couldn't get the image out of my head, and that absolutely killed it for me. Yeah, if you don't like Scottish men, it couldn't be me. Yeah, don't do that. Also, they're not wearing kilts when they're wolves. One of my favorite Brother's Best Friend primal play romance books, Pray Tell by Amanda Richardson. And there's just one here that I thought was really funny. His name is Chase Ravage, and the series surrounds the Ravage brothers. And Jenny here just says, 1 star. Ravage is a stupid name. She's like, what else do I need to say, right? I love Chase Ravage. He's my husband. Chasing the Wild by Elliot Rose. This is a sexy, age gap, cowboy ex-boyfriend's dad romance, okay? And I loved it. Also, I think it should be said, all the books that I'm talking about here today were books that I rated 5 stars. -1 star for her calling her ex-boyfriend's dad daddy all the time. -1 star for the mention of the pouting little bud, aka her clit. Here's one thing about me. I'm gonna fall for calling him daddy every single time. I love a daddy. And if that is an ick that you have, we just don't have the same book taste. And that's okay, baby girl. It's getting kind of dark. I'm gonna turn a light on. A little better. The sun was setting. I was losing my light. Was it a bad book, or was I just in my luteal phase? Honestly, I think it was fucking terrible. I skimmed the last 100 pages. She called his hand paws. She says, my ex-boyfriend's father a million times. And on the next sentence claimed they never really had a relationship. It was just sex. It's if Birthday Girl and Credence ordered themselves a cowboy. That first question though, so fair. Because I've asked myself a couple times reading like a little spicy novella, was this 5 stars or was I just ovulating? I don't know. But it's good to be aware of where we are timing-wise in our cycle, right? I have no problem with a man with paws. In fact, I like a man with big hands. And if they can be compared to paws, even better. Even better. But again, that's my primal kink. That's my primal kink right there. And my deep-seated love for older men. Okay, this next one, Praise by Sarah Kate. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to read these because the Salacious Players Club is so near and dear to my heart. And I truly feel like no one can read that entire series without sort of discovering something about themselves. And Praise, the first book in the series, definitely opened my eyes to a few things about myself. If you know what I mean. I fear I absolutely hated this and have discovered I most definitely do not have a praise kink. I can't imagine if that is not your thing, why you wouldn't like this book. But again, I do feel like every book in the series explores so many different things that can appeal to so many different tastes that I bet if she did continue on with the series, she would find one that she said, oh, actually, yeah, this. 1.5 stars for a book that's titled Praise and apparently revolves around the praise kink. There wasn't a good amount of good girls said in it. Huh. How many times do they say good girl? Hold on. We're gonna look this up. According to my Kindle word search, the word good girl is used 19 times in the whole book. I don't know about you. That seems like a decent amount to me. Especially if you don't want it to like feel overdone. But you know, who knows? If you love a good girl moment and you really need like the frequent affirmation of that, I can imagine maybe 19 not being enough for a little over 300 pages. I do have a praise kink. I love a good girl moment and 19 feels like plenty, but you know. Different strokes. I couldn't really get behind the storyline. I kept feeling bad for Charlotte's ex-boyfriend, and there's also no way he'd be okay with Charlotte and his dad being together. The family issues that Charlotte had felt forced into in the story to make her character more complex, which it didn't do. Emerson gave me partial ick. Overall, it was spicy, but not a good read. You know what? If you feel so bad for Charlotte's ex-boyfriend, he gets a book. He does. And you know what? He's the submissive who ends up with like a dommy mommy who who also happens to be his dad's business partner. And that's why him and Charlotte never worked out. They were both people who needed more dominant opposite energies. But I have to say, wholeheartedly disagree. Okay, let's just do one more. And I'm gonna do one of my favorite Megan Quinn books of all time. A long time coming. I just feel like it's so fun and funny. I enjoyed it so much. It's kind of like the romance book equivalent to The Maid of Honor with Patrick Dempsey. Two codependent best friends who met in college. She is now engaged to another man, and he is now realizing he's in love with her. Bro, I thought it couldn't get any worse, and then they turned out to be Disney adults. Stop, that's a detail I actually love. I love that that was something that they shared and that they didn't find like stupid. Because here's the thing, there are adults out here like myself who love Disney. You like going to Disneyland, you like Disney movies, and you should never be with a partner who finds the things that you like silly or dumb or stupid. So I liked that they had that in common. And here's the thing, my husband is not a Disney adult. He doesn't cherish it the same way I do, but he fully supports and encourages my love of it. Okay, Linda says, I only read this book to find out Breaker's real name, and it's never brought up. His parents didn't name him Breaker. Every other character's quirky full name has been mentioned. Lila is Ophelia. Lottie is not Charlotte. JP is Jonah Peter. So what is Breaker short for? I'll be honest, I'm someone that when I close a book, most of the time, the main character's names leave the vicinity of my brain. And I do have to like look back at reviews to remember what the main characters' names were. So I think it's funny that that was like the core reason. You know what, I'm gonna look it up. I don't know. Google says that his real name is Breaker Kane. That's something you gotta bring up with Mrs. Quinn. That's funny though. Thanks, I absolutely hated this. One sentence summary, two nerds friend zone each other until the guy sees her in a dress and pops a boner. Oh, and a TikTok beauty guru lash girl sensation Michaela Nogueira is called an inspiration during Dirty Talk? Did that happen? This is like the lactose intolerant wolves. I have no memory of that little detail. That's funny though. I feel like stuff like that belongs in Megan Quinn books because it's like the outrageous but sort of like socially relevant things of right now make you laugh out loud because it's just like outrageous. Okay guys, that was fun. That was fun. But now after that, I feel like I want to balance the scales. Maybe sometime in the next few weeks, I'll do a video reading 5-star reviews of the books I rated 1 star. That could also be pretty fun and entertaining. Here's the thing, I'm also very impressionable. So I wonder if like reading 5-star reviews of books I either DNF'd or gave 1 star might convince me to give it another shot. That could be fun. Thank you so much for watching. And I also hope that you walk away from this video not letting any of those negative reviews sway you from reading some of my favorite books. If you're here because you trust me, because you like my content, read these books. I love them all and I think you'll like them too. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Happy reading. Love you so much. Mwah.